Homesteader family, welcome back to the journey. Welcome to this edition of the Sunday Monday vlog. I'm going to fix the chat thing real quick, and then we're going to get into it. So I'm over here with Mr. Boogs, just laying on the couch, sitting here. I've rearranged the shed. The tiny home's been totally redone. Stayed up till like 8:30, 9 o'clock the other day into the morning, ripping everything apart, changing everything around, because I've got to make some changes, updates, and things going forward, since we're getting ready to go into, not getting ready to, but slowly but surely getting closer to winter. So since I'm not going to be at the restaurant, I'm not going to be heating the restaurant, I'm going to have to get everything liquid out of there. Paint, spray cans, medical supplies, all the different cases of bottled water I stocked up on, colognes, deodorants, shampoos, all that type of stuff. So I've got to make space in here. So that's why I started tearing everything apart, change everything around. There you go, Max. You're on the screen. You happy? And making space in here. So I'm going to give you a quick tour in here, and then I'll go over some other stuff that's been going on. So let me flip the camera around. So this is the new setup in here. I went ahead. The couches were together in the L shapes. So I went ahead, disconnected. So I went ahead and moved the two small pieces of the couch over here. So that way the dogs have their couches. And then, of course, Minnie Mouse on her couch. So that gives me the nice, big open flow, open walk-through. So glass door to glass door. You know, you just get that light all the way through. You don't have everything stuck out. And then the table and countertop that were right here where the couches were, and the fridge and freezer all got shifted down. This way, when I'm sitting here eating, instead of looking directly at a wall, I can go ahead and look outside into the woods. I got that set up, so that's a little bit better. The microwave on the counter instead of up on top of the fridge and freezer, so that way I don't have to reach up as high, because I'm only 5'7". And then went ahead, got Lazy Susan set up for a TV, so I can see the TV in bed, and then rotate it this way if I want to rotate it. And then that gave me a little bit of shelf for the coffee and cups, plates, all that type of stuff. So this is the change I've done in here. And then because I bought all that concrete last winter, working on the fencing, I've never used all this concrete. So I've got stacks and stacks of concrete here. That bag, that stack, and that stack that I need to use. So going forward, I'm going to be doing a little bit of construction. Not a whole bunch. It's not going to be my house. I know everybody's been waiting for me to start on the house. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen quite yet. Why? I don't have the money. But I have all the bags of concrete there. I have all those cinder blocks that I brought from Colorado out here that have just been sitting in a stack. So I'm not going to have the money to completely do the bathhouse, but I figure if I can do 4 or 5 rows of cinder blocks, that will at least give me a base, that will give me some type of hardened type structure. It's not going to be the best. I don't know exactly how many blocks I have down at the back of the homestead, so I don't know exactly how high I can go with the cinder blocks, but I'm going to start doing that. So now that my credit card's just rolled over for the 17th of the month, so that goes from 17th to 17th. So now anything I do now don't have to be paid till the 17th of next month. So as of yesterday, hey DT, how you doing tonight? So as of yesterday or day before, I went ahead and ordered concrete vibrator. I ordered a rebar bender, and then you can see in the windows here, the snake plants are going crazy. They're growing rapidly. So I need bigger pots, and Home Depot and Walmart don't carry the rectangle pots that fit in these windowsills, because the windowsills are only 21.5 inches. And everything at Home Depot and Walmart is either like a little tiny 10-inch, or it's a 24-inch or 36-inch. So nothing fit these. So I found a couple online. So I bought 4 rectangle ones. They're 15 inches. So a little bit more than the 10 inches, but not quite as big as I wanted. They had some 20 inches I found online, but they're like $40 and $50 a planter. And I found 2 packs of these 15-inch planters for I think like $21. So I'm not gonna spend 40, $50 on a planter when it's just here in the tiny home. I'll worry about that later on. But I'm gonna start working on the bathhouse because now I got the concrete vibrator, I have the rebar bender, I had the concrete, I had the cinder blocks. The only other thing I need to buy this week, or not this week, but in the next couple weeks, because I'm gonna wait till it starts cooling down before I start doing concrete work, is buying some rebar. So I'll have to go Home Depot. They have some 20-foot sticks of rebar. It's cheaper if you buy 20-foot. And then I'm gonna take my angle grinder with me, my cutoff wheel, and just nip them in half so that way I can put them in my truck and not have to haul a trailer all the way to town. If I buy the 10-foot sticks, it's like $3 more combined if you buy 2 sticks than what it is to buy a 20-foot. So I'm going to start working on that. That's going to be some new construction. 2 days ago, I just got an email. The batteries for the solar system have shipped. So they should be here in the next couple weeks. It goes by freight. So freight can take up to like 3 weeks to get here because they go truck to truck to truck until they get here. As soon as the batteries come in, then I'm going to be set for power for the winter. Right now, like I've said, the hot tub, I have to have sunny days. Right now, cloudy and rainy, which isn't bad. We need the rain, we need the moisture, and it's going to cool off the weather. We were in the mid-90s today, and then I believe tomorrow and the next several days, we're going to be getting down into the 80s. So it's going to be a nice cool down. However, with all the rain we had 3 days of rain, and now this is another day of rain. The grass at the restaurant is well overgrown yet again. And so I'm going to have to give it a couple days to dry out before I mow it, especially since it's raining today. Good thing is tomorrow I have the Searcy County Fair meeting, so I'll be having that video coming up either Monday or Tuesday. That will be coming out. I know a lot of you guys don't watch those, but those of you in the community end up watching it. So I'll have that coming up. And then I'm thinking like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, somewhere in there, I've got to go into a government lab again. It's that time of year. Normally it's November. For whatever reason, they bumped it up. They like this alien DNA. They like collecting this alien DNA. So I've got all my lab work, blood work, and all that type of stuff for the VA. So I got that scheduled later this week coming up. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go to town before that or just wait till I have to go to town for that anyhow and then just do the rebar and everything. But yeah, so I've got all my blood work. I'll find out about that. We'll see if the cholesterol levels went down, that they wanted it to go down. I don't know. I'm not drinking regular Coke anymore. I'm drinking the Mexican Coke that doesn't have high fructose corn syrup and all the chemical stuff in it. So I know high fructose corn syrup is a big factor in high cholesterol. So hopefully that cuts it down. If it don't, this alien is not changing. So the VA wants me to change, but we all know it's not going to happen. I'll drink my coffee, drink my Coke, go about doing my thing. The animals, everything's going regular with the animals, feeding, hauling water, haying. I've had to fly spray the animals the last couple weeks because the flies are getting bad. The biting flies, the horse flies are getting really bad out here. The camels have specks all over them from being nipped up. No new babies. No other real big news or anything like that. I did have that extra video that came out for the county, for Searcy County. They're doing a thing with FEMA and all that stuff for potential natural disasters and hazards and all that type of stuff. So the community is doing all different proactive things now. We'll see where everything goes. You know, the world's changing. Some places it's getting better. Some places it's getting worse. Gas here, for those of you that have asked, gas is down to $2.99 here. So gas has come back some. Food prices are still going up, in my opinion. I mean, a bag of chips is still $5, $6. Um, I don't know why a bag of chips, when it's only one or two potatoes cut real thin, is worth $5 or $6, but that's what they're charging nowadays. Um, Same thing with the concrete vibrator. It was like $300 for a concrete vibrator for a good one, not a cheap one that's not going to last. And we all know I've got to buy a good one because I'm going to have a house to build. I'm going to have the power building to build. I'm going to have the barn to build. I'm going to have a lot of different things to build. So it's not that the rebar bender is going to go to waste. That was only, I think, like $82. It's not a fancy hydraulic one. I don't have thousands of dollars to buy one of those. So it's going to be some brute force strength to bend the rebar. Luckily, I'm not doing 3/4 inch rebar. I'm only going to be doing 1/2 inch rebar for all the cells of the tubes of the uh, bathhouse and different buildings I do. I will do a little bit of filming. I do need to, like I said many times, get back to editing videos. But as I do like the bathhouse and stuff like that, I'm going to show what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, because I know it's unconventional for other people. I over engineer things, spend more money in my building than I need to, uh, but I like doing it. So just like this tin, behind this tin is plywood. Everybody said I could have just screwed the tin to the wall, but I put plywood behind it to make it even more solid, and it's more money. But it's just the way I do things. Um, so I've got the concrete vibrator coming in, the rebar bender coming in. I got the planter pots coming in for the snake plants, so I can separate them and get them a little more space since they're outgrowing these pots. I've got the batteries are coming. I think that's all that's coming. And my grandmother sent me a package from Colorado, so I've got that coming. Going forward, Sunday, Monday vlogs, not really coming back quite yet until I really have a lot of stuff coming up. Only reason I'm doing this Sunday, Monday vlog is because I am going to be starting some construction. I do have a bunch of updates, like I said, batteries and all that stuff coming in. I'll be able to start warming up the hot tub today. I'm not getting in the hot tub because the hot tub's at 94 degrees because we're getting cooler at night. And with it cloudy and rainy today, I didn't get to get it up to temperature. I think I only have it up to either 96 or 97 right now. So that's not quite warm enough. I like it at right about 100, but I'm tending to like it a little bit warmer than 100. So if it's 96, 97, it's a little too cool for me. Never been a cold weather or cold water person, I should say. Cool weather, cold weather, I don't mind. Some things have happened in this county, in Searcy County. Possibly bad. So, at the last quorum court meeting, I know a lot of people here don't watch the quorum court meetings. But if you watch the quorum court meeting, you saw that some outer towner moved in, put up a generator right next to a lady's house on the edge of the property line, and her house is, I guess, right by the property line. Now, we could be talking, it could be a 1/2 acre property, 10-acre property. I don't know. Specifics weren't stated. But as you get smaller properties, yes, your house and stuff is closer to property lines. Well, apparently this person from out of town is running the generator because they decided not to get power, where in my mind generator costs a lot more money than getting power. Along with solar is a lot more money than getting power if power is to your property. If you got to bring it miles down the road like I would have to do, it's cheaper for me to go solar. That's why I went solar. Long-term costs, it's probably still going to end up costing me more in solar than it would if I would spend all the money buying electric. However, I don't have the money to buy electric. But this guy's not shutting off the generator. Been going on for 2 years. So now it's got brought up to the quorum court about zoning, noise ordinances, and possible regulations. So what does that mean? Well, anybody that doesn't live in Searcy County, Arkansas, that lives pretty much everywhere else, minus there's a handful of places out there that don't have building codes, don't have restrictions, don't have noise ordinances, don't have all that type of stuff, know that as their places started adding zoning, then zoning will then tell you you can't have this type of building, you can't have that type of building, which means building codes come into effect. And then with building codes come inspections. So then you got building regulations. And then when you have all that, then it goes into all the other stuff, restrictions, homeowner associations, and all that type of stuff. So was not a good night going to quorum court listening to the possibilities of things snowballing. Now, yes, I know, this is year 2024. Society has taken over 99% of the world. And yes, I found that 1% of the world, at least in the States, not overseas, because I don't look at all that stuff overseas. But I did find a small place here in Searcy County, Arkansas, that was as free as I could find, minus going to the bush in Alaska when you're in the middle of total nowhere and you got to boat or fly everything in. Then there's, no regulations, no nothing, because you're way out in the middle of nowhere. I know it was coming to Arkansas. I was hoping to get a lot more than 4 years before all this stuff happens. Now, yes, it's going to take a little bit of time. So the key is hopefully nothing happens until after I get my house built and stuff. So I don't have to jump through all the hoops like Fremont County, Colorado was trying to get me to jump through to build a house, where, Fremont County, Colorado, you can't camp on your land for more than so many weeks and so many months of the year, and it has to be separated. It can't be in a row. You can't live on your land, even if you own the land, without having building regulations and all that, and a house built and all that out there. So yes, it was coming this way. So what does that mean? Does this homesteader move again? My grandmother asked me that exact question. And I said, it's funny you mention it, because Monday night after quorum court, I come back here, I hop on my laptop right there on the fridge and freezer, and I go to what? Realtor.com. And what's the first thing I do? I start looking at properties in Alaska. Just getting an idea. I didn't look at any certain towns. There were certain towns I looked at, like the outskirts of Fairbanks. I looked at Homer, looked at several different places in Alaska over all these different decades. Now, I say all these decades, but hasn't really been over these decades. It's only been like, what? I'm 37 now. So like maybe the last 14 years I've been drawn to Alaska. So not even a decade and a half. It just feels, I'm here forever. I'm 37, but I've lived so much life. Moved to so many different places, had so many different plans. The journey goes left, the journey goes right, it goes all over the place. But I got on Realtor.com. I looked at Alaska. I just typed in Alaska. Didn't type in any towns. And I typed the most land and prices, or the largest amount of land to the smallest amount of land, because we all know I like a lot of land. There's some 5,500 acre properties out there, $25 million, so nothing this homesteader would ever be able to get. But just going down to see the largest land for the least amount of money. So there were a couple, 200, 300, 160 acre properties that were within, couple $100,000, where if I sold everything, which we all know, the ranch hasn't sold, the restaurant hasn't sold, 20 acres here hasn't sold. So if I put this on the market, this probably ain't gonna sell right now either. But if everything sold, and after paying off mortgages and debt and taxes and all that type of stuff, that would leave me money to possibly get one of those pieces of land up there. So, am I moving to Alaska? Am I finally done with the lower 48? Am I, you know, going out to the bush? No. The answer is no. I'm still going to look at Alaska. Never know. Yeah, crypto crazy. Who knows? Um, but there's four things stopping me from going to Alaska. There's a couple things that want to push me to Alaska. The hot summers here, I'm not a big fan of heat because you can only get down to nakedness, and that's as far as you can go. You can't peel layers of skin to get even cooler. Once you're to nakedness, you can't get any cooler. Then you need your AC unit. If the AC unit's not strong enough, then you're throwing water on yourself or jumping in a pool or doing something. Cold, you can always throw more logs in a wood stove. You can always be warm. You can always throw an electric blanket on your bed like I do in the winter. So the heat here once pushed me to Alaska. But I've got four things that are stopping me from going to Alaska. First thing, I got to get rid of most of my animals because a lot of the animals I have aren't allowed in Alaska. Let alone the cost to move the animals would be probably more than what I would pay for land up in Alaska. So that's number one. I would lose all my animals. Number two, after watching Home Free Alaska all the time and seeing all the mosquitoes and stuff, I really don't want to have that issue because here we don't really have any issues with mosquitoes. The mosquitoes here are really small. They can be biting you. You look down, you see a mosquito, and you smack it, splatters blood, but you never felt it. So the mosquitoes aren't bad here. Your skin doesn't welt up real big after being bit by them. So the mosquitoes is a big factor. The third, cost of living. Once again, watching Home Free Alaska and other Alaskan channels and Alaskan TV shows like Gold Rush and Bering Sea Gold and things like that, they've done things where they go to stores and show you how expensive it is, and everything seems to be 3 to 4 times the cost in Alaska than it is here. So you may say, well, jobs pay a lot more up there, but I won't be getting a job up there. I would be on my VA just like I am here. So $3,000 in Arkansas goes a whole lot farther than $3,000 would go in Alaska. So the cost of living is a massive thing, keeping me from Alaska as well. Then the fourth thing would be I'm not 100% sure if I'm ready to make life that hard. I like my luxuries, and that's why I've looked at the outskirts of Fairbanks. Several years ago, I had found, I think it was like 400 acres out there just outside of Fairbanks, close enough that I could actually get power. I wouldn't have to do solar. It had a well on it, and then it was only, I think, like 40 minutes to Fairbanks. So I would have Walmart, I would have Home Depot. Yes, I know a lot of people hate the big stores, but hey, it's cheap and it's what I do. So I don't like going to a bunch of different places. I like to just go to one place, hurry up, get through dealing with people, and get back to my paradise. So, yes, Arkansas is going to change just like everywhere else is going to change, just like with anything over time changes. And going back to my great grandfather, like he always said, 90% change is bad, 10% 10% change is good. And you can look at the same thing with the restrictions that will come to Arkansas eventually. It was brought up at the quorum court meeting, but it's nothing that's been started. There's no official paperwork. There's been no public talks about it. There's been no laws passed, regulations passed, ordinances passed. So we're still a bit out. It may take a couple years till we even get started. But it is a thing to think about, that if things do change where you live, or if you're moving to a place that changes, it's going to happen. the towns around me, or counties around me, Marion County, Boone County, Newton County, they all have some type of building restrictions. They all have some type of building codes, things you can do, things you can't do. Um, Searcy County doesn't have or they have a humane society, but they don't have animal control. Our police department's not big enough for animal control, so we don't even have an animal control officer. So people that don't take care of animals, I drive by a horse that I see that you can see every single rib in the horse. You know, 90% bad is like Fremont County, Colorado. How many times did I have the sheriffs and animal control and zoning and building and code and all them up at the ranch because people called on me all the time? So that 90% bad, if there's animal control officer, well then, that's bad if one gets put in place because you have people that abuse the system and cause issues and try to intimidate people like me by doing that. The 10% good change would be somebody would call about that horse with all the ribs, and that horse would get care, or the horse would be taken away and, sold or whatever to be taken care of. So, it goes both ways. You got to look at it in both perspective. And that's where the freedom part for me brought me to Arkansas, and why I don't think I'll ever leave Arkansas. Like I always say, Alaska's always in my thought. There's no other state. I thought for years about going to Montana because after living in Colorado, Montana seemed even better than Colorado. But Montana's not even a thought anymore because of the cold, the growing seasons, things that Arkansas provides, you lose when you go to cold climates. The bad side is you have ticks, humidity, hot summers, things that negate it and make you not want to live in Arkansas. But going back to the freedom aspect, Arkansas, besides Alaska, is like the last free place I've found. Now, yes, I know there's some counties like down in Mississippi and Alabama, way out in the groves and the swamplands that you have that freedom. But it's not quite the lifestyle I want to live. I don't want to be, in the swamps. I don't want to be mosquito infested. But with the freedoms here, I came to Searcy County because the prices were cheap. When I came out here, I think it was either July or August when I decided to come to Arkansas after somebody told me to look at Arkansas. I came out here. It was $2.16 a gallon. I think 2.6. Yeah. No, it wasn't 2.68 a gallon. It was $1.16 a gallon because I was getting it for almost $1 in Colorado with $1 off through Loaf and Jug using Kroger points. I would buy my Home Depot cards. Gift cards were 4 times points, and then I get $1 off gallon, and it was 2 something, which brought it almost to $1. So it was $1.16 a gallon here in Arkansas in 2020 when I first came out here. And then food prices were cheaper, hay prices were cheaper. Hay, as we saw in Colorado, I was paying $110 to $165 a bale. When hay got tough in Colorado, it went up to $200 and some a bale. And when I first moved out here, I was paying $20 a bale. Now I'm paying double the cost. I'm paying $40 a bale. Gas, I'm now paying $2.99. But you look at other places, they're paying a lot more. Fremont County, you couldn't camp on your own land. You couldn't live on your own land. You had to build a house. Your house had to be a certain amount of square feet. You had to buy all the inspections, pass all the inspections, get soil analysis tests, soil compaction tests. You had septic system, all this stuff you had to spend money and get inspected and get researched and get approved in order to even be on your own land. Searcy County, Arkansas, They allow that. You can have a cardboard house. You can have a tent. You can have a yurt. You can have a shed that you turn into a tiny house. You can build a house. You can live in an RV. You can live in your trunk of your car. You know, you can do whatever you want. Plastic box, trash can, whatever. That's the old way of life. Like I've said through this whole journey and through my whole life, is since when do you have to pay to live on a planet created for free? You know, you buy land. Why should you have to pay for building inspections? Why should you have to do all this just to live on that land? Why can't you build a dirt house? Why can't you build a sod house? Why can't you build a rock house like back in the day? You just give your money. You give all your equity, all your time, all your labors to somebody else. Nothing comes to you. And that's where I say all the time, if you want a homestead, it's worth it. It may cost a lot more money. It may be a higher way of life because you have to buy solar. You have to do all these things that in the city, you can live in a shoebox, spend $2,500 a month in rent, but you have everything. It's a harder life homesteading, but it's as close to free as you can get. Regulations will come to Arkansas because society is always expanding. People are stupid enough to keep adding more and more societal norms to everything, more technology to everything, and just destroying the free way of life. You know, you don't have family dinners anymore. You don't have big family holidays together. You don't have movie nights together. You don't have gardening and farming together. You have no family together anymore. Everything's going to the wayside. And you may say, oh, my family goes to dinner once a week. How many times once a week at that dinner is somebody on their cell phone? Is somebody texting? Is somebody on Facebook? Who actually has conversations and talks to people anymore? Back in the day, people conversated. They didn't look at their phones all the time. It's not a lot of people can hold a conversation. Not a lot of people, like some of my boomers out there that talk to me on the phone for 4 hours at a time, can talk. You know, people, you know, don't know how to talk anymore. They look at their phones. And Arkansas has offered me, in drinking this coffee, I am starting to sweat. And I realized I turned off my AC, so it wasn't making noise while I was making this video. But even with the building regulation coming in, this is as close to freedom as I'm going to find. This is probably as close to freedom as many people are going to find. Because as Arkansas brings in regulations, and as Arkansas brings in building codes, and they bring in HOAs and building restrictions and everything else, you got to remember the towns around Searcy County, the counties around Searcy County, the states around Arkansas are all getting worse. So as more building restrictions and things and regulations come to Searcy County, the regulations in town is going to be even worse because it starts in the society and it comes out to the communities. So will Searcy County be able to hold off society from taking over its community? No. Why do I believe that? Do I believe people will stand up and do something about it? Do I believe people are going to stand up and fight for it? Are people going to protest for it? No. And why do I believe that? Is because families here talk about it. And people everywhere talk. They're going to stand up. They're going to fight. They're going to change it. They're going to stop it from being changed. But go all the way back through history. Generation after generation is allowing change to happen. Generation after generation brings in new change to happen. And it never stops. For example, here for Searcy County, make it really simple. Along the Buffalo River, a lot of generations that are still here from the original generations that own land along the river here. The government came in and took all their farms, took all their homes, and made it a national river. Nobody stood up. Nobody stopped the river from being taken over. And they lost everything they had. Then we go to, what was it, a couple years ago? The St. Joe School was being shut down, and the families protested. I even went and spoke at it and said my experience from having to go to city school and be on a bus for 45 minutes to go to Wilmington, Delaware, down the highways, sit in traffic, and how much time I was on a bus and how I hated that. And they said they're not going to send their kids to the other school in the other district. They would never fold. And you know what happened? Their kids are at the other school in the other county, paying tax money to another county. It's not going to change. Or I should say, it is going to change. Things will continue to change. There's no fighting it. There's no stopping it. The only way to stop it is to reverse it. Reverse the technology, reverse the societies, and go back to the old way of life. If you're out homesteading on your land, if you're gardening, you're not contributing to society. You're not contributing to making everything modernized. You're going back in time. If you homestead and make your own candles and make your own fuel, make your own food, make your own clothes, make your own furniture, build your own house from the materials on your land, whether it be rock or sod or wood or what have you, you're not spending money into society. You're not contributing to society. So just like people stop buying beer or stop watching Disney or stop to sports shows or events or what have you, you drain that money and it affects that category. That's the only way to change anything. Standing up trying to fight, standing up trying to protest, standing up and trying to voice your opinion does nothing. It's the physical action of getting away from it, not being a part of it, not contributing to it, is what's going to keep the freedom as free as possible. If we all got back to homesteading, if we all went back to local communities and got away from society, I truly think the world would change for the better. Will it happen? No. Why? Because they make it so bad in the city that they vacate the cities, like California, like Illinois, like New York, like Denver, Colorado, which is now rated at the third worst for the whole immigration and homeless issue. They're fleeing the crap shows, and they come out to Arkansas, they come out to Mississippi, they come out to Alabama, they come out to Montana. And then what do? They protest, they change, because they want what they had in the city, but not as bad as the city was. Just like my house that I built in Cotopaxi. You know, we had people from California come out, and they were trying to talk to the county about putting in paved roads. They wanted street lights. They came from Denver. Well, if you want paved roads, if you want street lights, go back to Denver. And that's what Searcy County needs to do. Instead of having the quorum court go and try to start putting in ordinances and regulations, the people of Searcy County need to be, if you want to run a generator right against my house, there's going to be an effect for it. You want to do that type of stuff? Go back where you came from. You want to come out and put a spotlight on the side of my house? We can change that. Go back where you came from. That's the problem. People want to go in and they want to change everything. People want to go in and they want to take dirt roads and make them paved roads. They want to take dark roads and put in street lights. They want places like here that don't have animal control. People that are moving into, I see it on Facebook all the time. People complaining that there's not an animal control officer in Searcy County because they're tired of this, they're tired of that. Well, guess what? I don't like dogs running up on my property. I don't like dogs trying to attack me out here. So what did I do? I don't go on Facebook and complain, why don't we have animal control? Why don't, you're trying to take freedom from somebody else. But it goes both ways. And that's the problem we're facing in this country. That's the problem we're facing in this world, is we want what's best for us and we don't look at the other person's freedom we're taking. We want, if we wore certain things on our face, we want to force people to have to wear it as well. That's taking their freedom away. The person that's not wearing something on their face didn't force you to take yours off. They let you have the freedom of having that on. The Second Amendment, same thing. People that don't want it, don't have it. But don't force the ones that have it to have to get rid of it. The ones that have it aren't forcing you to get one. So that's the same thing. Animal control out here. Somebody should have the freedom, if they have a dog, to do what they want to do with their dog. But should their dog be over killing somebody's chickens or geese or goats or things like that? No, because then you're affecting that person's freedom. But if you regulate the person with the dog, you're taking away their freedom, and that only benefits you. So it's something we have to work together again as a community. In my stance, you see I'm doing the brush pile fencing. I'm doing a lot of work. It's keeping animals out of my property. I have not had any animals coming from one side of my property now because it has brush pile fencing. It is starting to decay, but falls around the corner. I'm going to be stacking up more fencing. So if you have an issue with neighbors' animals, put up fencing. Yes, it's going to cost you money. Should it be your responsibility to spend that money to stop your neighbor's dog? That's up to discussion, because animals possibly deserve freedom. Do they deserve to be on a chain 24/7 like you see in a lot of yards? But at the same time, do they deserve to have free reign where they run out into the road and get hit? Where's the responsibility? Where's the freedom lie? That's where communities go back to, if your dog ate somebody's chicken, well, that person probably took care of the dog. Not going to state how, but the dog was taken care of. If a person is an animal abuser back in the day, and they beat their horses, they beat their animals, do they have a right to do that? Well, that goes back to the thing. They spent the money. They worked to have that animal. Should that animal be taken from them? That's, once again, back to a community thing. Back in the old days, people that got caught beating animals, abusing animals, got beaten and abused by the community. People that stole, people that came into a community and did things against what that community was about, got burned out back in the day, got ran out back in the day, or they just started pushing up daisies back in the day. We can go back and forth on what's right, what's wrong, but it all depends on the community. It all depends on the societal mind of thought, because what you see as being free in California is prison to somebody in Arkansas. What is free here in Arkansas can be looked at as prison in California. Nobody's got the right thought. Nobody's opinion is ever right, because the only one right is the person thinking that thought, because they don't see beyond what they want what they need, what they have to have. People want to enforce things. People want all these more regulations. People want all these more laws. And what nobody talks about and what nobody pushes more than anything that should be pushed is there should be no laws. Because the law only affects law abiding citizens. So you're only going to hinder the people that would obey it. You say you can't have a certain things in a school zone. How many times do we see events happening at school zones? You know, people say you can't have pit bulls in certain apartments. How many times do cops get called out and there's somebody in there with a pit bull? The law only affects the people that would abide by it. So what we need to have in this country, and I know a lot of people don't agree with it, is punishment. Punishment is the only thing that changes anything. Punishment is the only thing that controls anything. Because if there's fear of punishment, then there is slavemanship. And what I mean by that is, if you're afraid to go to jail, you're not going to do something that would put you there. If you're, you know, back in the day on ranches, if you beat your horses, you know if you got caught, your neighbors were going to beat you, and if not, you'd be pushing up daisies. So that hindered people from doing that. If you stole, you got hung back in the day. That was, you know, yes, there was a law, do not steal, but did people still steal? Yes. But if the punishment is graver than the benefit of what they do, they think twice about it. It's just like all the white collar criminals out there. You know, they take billions and billions of dollars from people, like Bernie Madoff and all them, and they serve so many years in jail, and then they get back out. Delta, United, U.S. Airways, Boeing, all these different companies. 3M, with my earplugs, they pay off $7 billion or what have you. But they've done how many trillions of dollars in damage? So is the benefit of them doing that over and over again worth it? It is. Wells Fargo, how many times have they kept doing these fake accounts and they paid millions and billions of dollars, but yet they keep doing it because they're making more money than the penalty is. If the penalty of robbing is $500 and 30 days in jail, and you go and steal $2,000 every time you do it, you have money to pay. You spend a little time in jail, you make $1,500. So is that worth robbing and stealing all the time? Yes, if you're willing to give up your time. Now, some people, like I said, you're scared to go to jail, you're not going to do it. But until punishment outweighs criminalization, which we can go down that rabbit hole of what's a criminal act. Everybody has their own perspective, everybody has their own opinion, and it goes back into that same stuff. So, as you're thinking about life, as you're thinking about places to move, as you're thinking about regulations, codes, communities, societies, you're not just looking at, is this a Republican area? Is this a Democrat area? Are the taxes high, taxes low? Is cost of living high or low? You need to look at everything. Is the community that you're moving into one that's into big societal changes? Is it into getting back to your roots? Getting back to the old way of life? Farming, gardening, homesteading, ranching, being able to trade among the community. Some states, some counties, some communities don't allow raw milk. Can you sell raw milk where you want to go? Is raw milk what you want to do? Can you sell vegetables? Some places you can't. Some places you can't have a garden in your yard. So these are things you want to think about more so than just the basic points of political, cost of living, taxes, so on and so forth. When you move, when I moved, when I chose Arkansas over all the other states I looked at, we all know I drove out to West Virginia. I looked at Florida. I looked at Texas. I looked at Montana. I looked at Wyoming, which Wyoming was a real quick look over because it's very windy in Wyoming. So I wasn't really wanting Wyoming after all the wind I dealt with in Colorado. Alaska, upstate New York. Look at all the different properties I put a bid on in upstate New York. And then as I started digging in and realizing all the different things that were changing with upstate New York, it was something I did not want to do. I chose Arkansas because I could live on my land. Remember this building? This shed? This was just a shed not too long ago. 2020, living in the shed. No insulation, no finished walls, no electricity whatsoever, just my generator, a couple hours a day to charge my phone and stuff. No running water, something I couldn't do in Colorado. I had to buy the building permits and stuff in Fremont County or they were kicking me off my land out there. A lot of you didn't know that. At the ranch, they were kicking me off the land. They're going to let me stay in that camper trailer that my grandfather stayed in that I bought for us to live in. They were going to kick us off the land until I came up with agreement and I gave them that money to be able to live on the land. They gave me a 1-year permit and then I had to, at the end of the year, I had to give them even more money to renew the permit so I could extend the build, which never got built because that builder took my money and then I decided to leave the state. But the long and short, do your research before you move. Know what you're moving for. Know the reasons why you're moving. The wants you have for what you're moving. The have-to-haves that you have for moving. The reasons why you're moving from where you are. And if where you're moving to is where you should be moving. If you want the change of life, then you need to move. But if you want the same lifestyle, hey Norman, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in a while. I just got to see your post about your new dog on Facebook. So congratulations on your new pooch. I believe you're up to 6 now. You can see, I know you're one of the ones that love seeing the pooches. So we got Chubbs there on the couch. We got Mickey Mouse there. We got Max. And then we got Minnie Mouse over on that couch. So my pooches are doing good too. And I see yours are all fat and happy. They're keeping you happy. Hope everybody else's pooches are keeping them happy. But if you're looking at moving to a new place, and you're moving because you want change, you got to remember you're moving for change. Do not bring what was to the new place because you miss it. If you had a nice paved road going to your house, but your neighborhood became a neighborhood of violence or a neighborhood of criminalization or a neighborhood full of immigrants or a neighborhood full of drugs, and you move to get away from that, and you decide to buy a place out on a dirt road, don't start trying to get that dirt road paved because it's not paved for a reason. People live on that dirt road to get away from society. They live on that dirt road because it keeps certain people from going out that way. Nice cars, things like that. Less traffic. Don't go down dirt road. If you're leaving that neighborhood for any of those reasons, but you want your paved road, then go to another place that has a better society or better community that isn't drugs, crime, violence, whatever made you move, buy identical but in a different community. That's the biggest thing, the biggest mistake people are making nowadays. And I see it all the time. Here in Arkansas, there's a lot of people from California coming to Arkansas, and a lot of them are in Harrison, luckily. They're not quite inundating this area. They're Harrison because Harrison's a city. And you talk to people. I socialize when I go to town because that's my only socialization besides my boomer conversations and Facebook and things like that. And people are like, yeah, I moved here 6 months ago, and I can't believe there's nothing to do here. There are no bars, and all that type of stuff. Well, before they moved, they should have looked at that. If they wanted all those bars, if they wanted the big city life, they shouldn't have moved to Harrison, Arkansas. They should have moved to Chicago or to Fayetteville or to Little Rock. Yes, you're going to have some of the bad stuff there too, because all the big cities have the bad stuff, just like you can say all the small towns have bad stuff. What do the small towns have that's bad? Lack of infrastructure, lack of utilities, lack of abundance, lack of stores, lack of whatever. But what you see a lack of, we see luxury in. We see the peace and quiet. We see the nature. We see the lack of people, the lack of population, the lack of pollution, the lack of congestion on our roads. I can go to Harrison. Only takes half an hour. 25 miles away. Some places to go 25 miles takes you a couple hours. I-95, I used to live on the East Coast, can take you a couple hours to go to a couple on-ramps or off-ramps. All depends on accidents and traffic and congestion and everything like that. So when you move, look at every little thing. If you're moving just to get away from a certain aspect, but you want everything else, just find an identical community that's missing the stuff that you don't want to have. Don't come out to the country and try to change the country. Just like the country doesn't come to the city and try to change the city. Once it becomes a city, there is no going back. Once the country gets destroyed, there's no going back. It's very hard. And people that live out here in the woods, in the country, on ranches, on farms, we don't want to change. We don't want that change. We're not looking at changing you. If you're from the city, we're not looking at changing you. We don't want your cities to become a garden center. We don't want you to tear down your skyscrapers. When's the last time you saw a bunch of people from the country protesting at a skyscraper saying, tear the building down, put in a cattle farm? They don't do that. They stay to themselves out here in the country because it's peaceful. We don't want to deal with that. If you want to be in a polluted town, if you want to be in a high crime rate town, if you want all that, you do that. If you want luxuries, but you want nature and you want peace of mind, then you got to have money. If you don't want to be in the cities and you want to live in the country or woods or mountains like me, you're going to have money. Plain as day. Can you live out here and have luxuries? Yes. That's the one thing I totally disagree with the countryside of things. And the Amish side and Mennonites and all that type of stuff. They make you think that in order to live the old-fashioned way, you have to live 100% the old-fashioned way. And the reason a lot of them make you think that is because they're doing it on a budget and they don't have the money. And it's deterring a lot of people from the city to come out to the country. And that's the one thing I think is the biggest thing in the homesteading community that is not talked about It is not shown. It is not taught and taught and learned and whatever you want to call it. Is you can live out here with luxuries. If we got more city people out into the country and they learn to love nature and they love country, well then family farms wouldn't be sold at record rates, and woods won't be sold at record rates, and farmlands and gardens and homesteads and just plain nature raw land wouldn't be selling at record rates to be bulldozed and turned into apartment complexes, bulldozed and turned into a Walmart shopping center. If more people realize the benefit of living in nature, living on raw land, but still being able to have city life to a point. Now, like I say, you want your bars, your clubs, all that type of stuff, that's not going to happen. But if you want the peace of mind of being in nature, but you want lights, you want AC unit, you want refrigerator, hot tub. We all know this homesteader just got a hot tub, and I'm loving my hot tub. I'm in it every day. I was in it yesterday twice. Today I was in it because I don't have enough power to get it hot where I want it. Although I got, like I said earlier, 2 new batteries coming in, so I'll have power. If you have money, you can homestead, you can garden, you can farm, you can ranch in luxury. It just takes money. All these people that live in one city and they drive to another city to make that bigger money, like Jersey. Everybody knows about Jersey on the East Coast. If you're from the East Coast, you know about Jersey. You live in Pennsylvania, you live in Maryland, you live in Delaware, and you work in Jersey. Why? Jersey taxes are outrageous, but you get paid so much money in Jersey. You can make a lot of money in Jersey. So people live in other cities and they drive to Jersey to work in Jersey because they make more money there, and then they go home where they pay less taxes and less restrictions and all that type of stuff. Well, if you have money, you can live in luxury. You don't need a lot of money because, like I said, my solar system, $25,000. Yes, that's a lot of money to a lot of people. Can everybody afford $25,000 solar system? No, they can't. But if you live in the city and we're paying what? I don't know what cities everybody's from, but say $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, $1,800 a month, $2,500 a month. Some places paying $4,000 a month, right? Just say 10 months, $4,000 a month for rent. There's $40,000. You lived there for 10 months. Yes, you had water, you had this, you had that, close to town, everything like that. But my thought, what homesteaders aren't teaching people is that 10 months, $40,000. Now, yes, $4,000 a month is high. We're talking big city there. But say we went down to $2,500 a month, okay? $2,500 a month, a year, say $25,000. We know 10 months is 25, so it's actually 20 or 30,000 or whatever. I can't do math right now. But because I got so many different thoughts in my head. But $2,500 a month, 10 months, that's $25,000. That's a solar system. That's living at that place for 10 months. That's it. When did I move to Arkansas? 2020. When did I buy this shed? 2020. So 4 years I've had a shed. Shed cost $7,800. Most people pay more than $7,800 a year for rent. So, buys the shed. 1 year buys your solar system. 1 year buys making it nice if you want to make it nice like I did. With the different wood grains and stains and tin and that type of stuff. So 3 years of rent that you're paying, I have done. My solar system will last for like 10 years at least. The batteries, I think, are rated for 14, 15 years. So I'll have to replace different stuff. But for 3 years of you living, paying rent where you are in cities, I own. The shed's paid for. The solar's paid for. All of this building materials paid for. Now, yes, I have a mortgage on the homestead, so technically I'm paying rent. Credit cards, up until I just did what I did with Colorado, selling part of my loan, I was paying credit cards. But if you do it smartly, if you live in the city, we all know housing is at record prices. If you have a $400,000 house or whatever amount house you have right now, you most likely could sell right now and have a chunk of money. With that chunk of money left over, you could sacrifice and continue working. You might have to drive back and forth to work. But where you are, if you sold your house in town, you might have a chunk of money left over. Not sure how big the chunk of money would be. Some people have a lot of money they've paid over the years, so they have, $100,000, $200,000 they could get if they sold their house. You could take that money, buy a small piece of land to start out with, or bigger land if you have more money. Buy it outright, so there's no payment on it, right? Buy 5 acres for, say, $15,000. You buy a shed for $8,000. You buy all the building material for, say, $10,000. You buy your solar system for $25,000. You buy gutters, a water cistern, some water pumps, and water filters for $8,000. Is it the most luxurious right off the bat? No. Was this shed the most luxurious when I first moved here in 2020, where I had no finished walls, no insulation, no electric, no water, no nothing? No. But here, 4 years later, instead of that $25,000 a year that you're paying for rent, well, that's $100,000 now in 4 years that went into your property. So if your solar system's $25,000 and you just saved $100,000 that didn't go to society's hands, to somebody else's hands, that $100,000 stayed in your hands because you're driving from where you live now back to the city. Yes, it's going to cost you gas money, wear and tear, but you're not spending all that money. All that money is coming into your pocket. That $25,000 plus a year that's going to rent is going into your place. So after a year of saving, you buy your solar system. After a year of saving, you set up your water system. After a year of saving, you get really nice tongue and groove pine. You get some nice corrugated tin. You buy some stain. You get some nice plastic flooring. You slowly build up. What am I doing now? I'm getting ready to start building on my bathhouse. Not going to get done this year. Probably not going to get done next year. But because I have some concrete here that I bought last year, and I have some cinder blocks from 5-6 years ago that I bought, that I saved, it's money every year going into your own homestead, going into your own stuff. What happened this year? I finally got a hot tub. I finally got more batteries. Now, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, my last 2 batteries are finally coming in. I'll have enough money or enough power to run that. Well, AC runs 24/7. I'll be able to run my hot tub. I don't have to worry about my hot tub getting cold. And like today, I don't want to get a hot tub because it's only 96 degrees. So these are the things you can do if you want city life like I do. I like my luxuries. I like my comfort. Getting in that hot tub with my little boombox out there, listening to music or watching a YouTube video, or taking my laptop out and watching something in the hot tub, while having LED lights on and having ice cold Coca-Cola out of my fridge and looking around saying, there's a tree, there's a tree, there's some trees, and there's a deer. I don't see no people. I don't see no houses. I do see my neighbor over here. But that's the thing. The bigger land you buy, the more of a buffer zone you have. But living in the country has its perks because you're away from the crime, you're away from the drugs, you're away from the immigrant problems, you're away from just everything. You're away from society. And that 90% bad change that my great-grandfather talked about and that 10% good change that he talked about is exactly what I'm living. Instead of being in the city where the 90% change is towards technology and all that, you're in all that mess. That's that 90% bad. The only 10% good is you have all that. But if you reverse that psychology and get back to what we used to do and living on land and not destroying the land and putting in all these things, that 90% bad is now 90% good. Because you're in nature, you're away from people. It's all in perspective. Like I said, we all think different ways. Some of us, we want to be at the club every night. We love people. We love talking. We love doing this. We love doing that. Then you got other people like me, antisocial, like to be out here in nature. But if we had more city people realize that you can have city-like assets and luxuries and benefits out here by not destroying land, then the land around the world wouldn't be getting destroyed. We would have more woods. We would have more fields. We would have more streams and lakes and rivers and everything else. Look at any land that just gets bulldozed and apartments going. It's concrete and asphalt and buildings. Then the litter comes in. Then the homelessness comes in. Then the drugs come in. Then the crime comes in. And what do? They vacate, move to the next place, bulldoze out the next piece of land, put up the next apartment complex, and it repeats. History repeats, and it continues to repeat. But more people need to talk in the homesteading community and teach people. You can build these big solar systems. You can do hot tubs. You can do big screen TVs. You can do the things you had in the city without destroying a bunch of land. My house that I'm going to build will destroy some land. This shed took out some trees. My hot tub took out some trees. So any footprint you make, you're going to destroy some. But what am I doing to benefit nature? As I destroy it, I rebuild it. I'm seeding the vacant ground for grass and seeds and forage foods. I'm doing the hedge brush ball fencing along the property, which I have tons and tons of rabbits now. I have groundhogs that are coming out from underneath it, making habitats. Snakes, finding a lot more snakes. Mice, I'm making an ecosystem. That's the problem. We're destroying all ecosystems. We're focusing on ourselves. But if we would teach people that you can have modernization, that you can have technology, that you can have a type of society, but be controlled with it, then my grandfather's saying doesn't hold. Because it would no longer be 90% bad, 10% good. It would be 90% good, 10% bad. The 10% bad is I took out some trees. Ants probably died, snails probably died, fungi probably died, different things died. I destroyed a part of the ecosystem. But the 90% good of me being here on this land, build my brush pile fencing. I'm making habitats. I've had all these baby deer. I've posted photos that are here staying on the homestead now because it's a safe zone. Coyotes aren't getting into my land, so they can have the babies here without that. As the deer population grows, that feeds more coyotes and other predators. Hunters have something to hunt. It's an ecosystem. I'm rebuilding that ecosystem. By me being here, that 90% good is it's not being bulldozed. There's not apartment complexes coming in. There's not concrete and asphalt taking up all this land. The land is being nurtured. It's being taken care of. And slowly but surely, I'll have gardens, which will provide more food for insects and wildlife and things like that. I'll have food being grown where most raw land doesn't have food being grown, as I have orchards growing. All the fruit trees I'm going to put in, all the vegetable gardens I have put in, all the flower gardens I have put in. As I bring in honeybees and hives, I'm building an entire ecosystem. I'm building a way for nature to hold on and not be destroyed. Now, am I a tree hugger? No. Why? I took down all these trees where my house site's going to be. I took down all these trees to do my fencing. We know I take stuff down. But as we take down stuff, we should be contributing back. Because every year, more and more species, more and more wildlife, bugs, nature, everything is going extinct. For society, which is going closer to the Matrix and closer to all the different movies that show you that it's nothing but garbage and destruction and pollution and control and the lack of freedom. But if we got city people thinking that you can lay in your bed, now of course I don't have a game system, but if you have people thinking from the city, you can lay in bed with your PlayStation or your Xbox and have your big screen TV there, and you can play your video games on your power system because you have your solar system and you have lights and everything else. Well, guess what? They would be helping keep the land healthy. They would help keep the land from being destroyed. And they would help keep freedom alive because they wouldn't want all the regulation coming in. They wouldn't want the building codes coming in. They wouldn't want the laws and rules coming in. They wouldn't want society coming in. That is how we stop society from advancing and how we keep freedom alive. It's not about the protesting. It's not about the fighting. Because like I said, the families here along the Buffalo lost all the land. Nobody stood and fought. They tried protesting. They tried voicing. Didn't happen. The St. Joe school here, they said they're not going to send their kids to another school, to another county to go to school. They talked about it. They tried protesting. When it comes to it, everybody folds. But if we change the cycle of thinking, the cycle of thought, the cycle of we have to have the newest and improved gadgets, but it has to be in society, and we change it to you can have the newest, coolest gadget out here in nature, people might be willing to change. People might be willing to start doing that. Because people don't want to be around crime. People don't want to be around drugs. People don't want to be around the immigration stuff. People don't want to be around war. But if they can have the newest gadget and be able to be comfortable out here in nature and be able to sit out in the hot tub and look out at the stars without all this light pollution, be able to sit in the hot tub and watch the deer and the baby fawns walking across, or watching the trees sway in the breeze, but still have their computer, their iPhones, their Androids, their laptops, their boom boxes. That's a thought most people in the city can't think of. Most people think in the city that if they move to the country, they're going to do what all these homesteading channels are showing. Oh, I got to have these old muck boots, and I got to look like an old rundown granny, and all I'm going to be doing is knitting and yarning and all this stuff that's portrayed doesn't have to be portrayed. You don't have to homestead, live on land. You could buy woods like this, put on a shed like I did. Yes, I have animals, but do I have to have animals? No. Could you in the city move out to the country and have these luxuries and not homestead? Yes. Can you come out here, live in the woods, and not have animals? Yes. Do you have to come out and can food? Do you have to milk a goat? Do you have to make cheeses? Do you have to knit and yarn and do all that type of stuff for your clothing? No. Can you still drive to the city and buy Tommy Hilfiger or Nautica or Reeboks or Nike or whatever you want? Yes, you can. Nothing's stopping you from that. And that's the thought none of them have. Nobody's realizing you can do this without living in the city. You can do this and keep nature in your back pocket. Nature right out your back window. Nature out your front door. And society in the rearview mirror as you're driving back home. Think about it. Make these decisions. Do your research. If you want the change, remember, when you come out to nature, when you come out to the country, don't go destroying the country. Don't come out destroying nature. Don't come out destroying the community based on what the community is in that area. If that community don't want drugs in it, don't bring drugs into it. If the community isn't big on big concerts and all that, don't think, you're going to have 50 million sound systems blasting for over 2 miles for everybody to hear. If you're coming to a community that everything is quiet and tranquil, don't bring out 40 dogs barking and barking and barking nonstop on a chain in the yard that the dog never comes out of the yard into the house. People don't want their ecosystem, their tranquility wrecked by a bunch of people that want to change it. If you want change, change. But don't go changing everybody else. If you're from the city, I highly recommend you come to the country. I highly recommend you buy woods, beach, raw land, fields. If you want to live in Kansas, live in Kansas. Don't know why anybody wants to live in Kansas, but if you want to go to Kansas, there's plenty of raw land in Kansas. You can still have internet. You can still have computers. You can still have TVs, electric, hot tubs, swimming pools, what have you. You just have a whole lot less people. A whole lot less stores, whole lot less concrete and asphalt jungles to be in. It just takes time to get out to them. It takes money to drive back and forth. But you can enjoy life. You can put all that money that's going to society into your own homestead, into your own pocket to give you the luxuries that you want. Just something to think about. Appreciate everybody's time, everybody's comments, everybody being a part of the journey. I know the last Sunday Monday vlog was long. I know this one was long, but people asked me to do more talking on different subjects, so I just go off of what's in my mind and trying to make some longer Sunday Monday vlogs because everybody's like, I'm not making videos right now. I'm not doing regular Sunday Monday vlogs, so they want more to listen to. And I understand that because Home Free Alaska makes about 55 minute long videos, and I just put the phone on the counter and I listen to the talking. I normally don't watch some parts of it. I'll see, but normally the long ones, it's for that background noise, that background music, background, talking. So that way, instead of just listening to music, you hear somebody's journey, you hear somebody's life, So that's why these last couple have been long. Maybe more in the future will be long. Uh, but just to give ideas to everybody, a new way of thinking, a new perspective. We all have our own. And see, now I'm getting a dry throat. So with that, I'm going to drink my cold coffee. I'm going to turn on a TV show. Since I have my luxuries of power, internet, and TV. And like always, live happy, live free. That's the only way to be. I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Winter's coming. Get your firewood, gases, propane, natural gas, all that together. Because it could be a bad winter. You never know. Take it easy. Have a great night.